gratitude to all of you for being with us this morning, and my sincere greetings to everybody who is with us today. In our discussion yesterday, we decided to do a self-assessment, an evaluation of how we are doing and how we want to move forward in our decision on dealing with our bad habits. We discussed how we could be on the bike riding towards our destination in the right direction. If we are slow, no problem, let's adapt to that slowness before we get to a fast movement. If we are fast, let us increase our speed by adding that micro change, the new micro change for the next 1 week. Or if we are on the bike riding in the right direction, but if we couldn't keep up with our commitments, we fell off the bike, no problem. Let's not be depressed. It's not about losing a battle, it's about winning a war. Let's get onto the bike again and start riding in the right direction. Or we could probably be one of those who are riding on the bike, but then rather than being on the road that we are meant to, we went astray into some other direction, put the bike aside and got distracted in doing something else. No problem. Let's pick up the bike, come back to the main road, what the decision that we made, and keep going. Or we could just be those who don't have a bike at all. So better we now start getting a bike and riding the bike of our commitment to change our bad habits in the right direction. The reflection for this morning's discussion, day 8 of our 21-day habit challenge. Thomas Alva Edison once made a very nice statement. He said, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. We may have an inspiration in our heart, that 1% strong, burning inferno of an inspiration. But unless that inspiration is put into action, dedicated, committed, hard work, that 99% perspiration, we are not going to be able to achieve what we want to achieve. And so also, when we talk about dealing with our bad habits, success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. We need that inspiration, but based on the foundation of that inspiration, we have to put in dedicated, committed, hard work, that 99% perspiration. What's amazing is that 99% perspiration is based on the foundation of that 1% inspiration. If the foundation of a building is in place, the very first thing that we make when it comes to building a structure, a house, a beautiful edifice or a mansion, is we put the foundation in place. If the foundation is in place, if it's strong and robust, then all the building blocks, the bricks, the cement, the mortar, the steel can go on and form a beautiful structure for us to live in, for us to dwell in. And so also, that 1% inspiration is the foundation of that 99% perspiration. Imagine if you're very inspired to change, if you're very inspired to give up some of your bad habits, but you don't put that hard work, that 99% perspiration, what good is that inspiration? Or imagine if you keep putting 99% of perspiration, that hard work, that effort, that dedicated commitment, but if you don't have that inspiration to do it in the right direction and sustain it and get it a higher shelf life, what good is that hard work and perspiration? Therefore, success comes by a balance of the two. Inspiration, which acts as the foundation, and perspiration, which acts as the building blocks to build upon that foundation. I once read a very interesting Japanese proverb. It said, action without vision is a nightmare. If you simply keep acting without having the right vision, the result is a nightmare. And it said, vision without action is a daydream. If you simply have a vision and you don't act upon it, all you have as a result is a daydream. I have rephrased it for our discussion here today. Perspiration without inspiration is a nightmare. But inspiration without perspiration is a daydream. And therefore I think we need to have both. And dealing with our habits, we've been talking about the perspiration, our action plan, our habit journal, our micro changes, staying away from those tempting surroundings. We've been talking about an actual action plan to put in that dedicated hard work, effort and perspiration. And we also need to speak about, which we've been talking about as well, is that 1% foundation, inspiration, which keeps us going. How to remain inspired on a day-to-day basis. Difficulties, temptations, trying circumstances, challenges come every day, and they puncture and put a hole in the tire of the vehicle of our committed effort. I always say, inspiration is the fuel that propels the vehicle of our hard work in the right direction. So how to stay sustainably inspired, how to remain fired up, charged up on a day-to-day basis so we can actually keep going with those commitments that we've made. Here's what I always say. In just a couple of days back, we were hearing about staying away from those tempting surroundings which will affect us negatively. But inspiration comes by being in or creating a positive surrounding that can actually influence our mindsets and our values so profoundly that we are inspired to continue our journey. And when I talk about being in or creating that positive surrounding, it's not all that hard actually. One of my friends in London, his name is Lalit Soda. He's born British Indian, born in Britain but from an Indian origin, a Gujarati Pushti Margi, Vaishnava, devotee of Srinathji. Very nice man. He's an experienced chiropractor. Has over 30 years, I believe, 25 to 30 years of experience as a chiropractor. And he runs a clinic at Field End Road in Pinner. And every single time I'm in London, he'll call me over to his chiropractic clinic to fix any of the issues I have in my back or in my neck. And is really good actually. He's fantastic. Works very well his treatment. Now, for years, whenever I'm in London, I've been going to Lalit's clinic. And I've been there so many times. But in the recent past, just in a few years before, I started taking note that the signboard on Lalit's chiropractic clinic is red and white. Whenever I entered in his clinic, I started observing that his furnishings, the interiors are all red and white. I also observed that him and all of his staff has an attire which is red and white. They wear a white shirt with a red tie, and if it's a lady, a black skirt or a black trouser and a coat. Men, of course, black trousers and coats, black coats. But the entire theme for Lalit's chiropractic clinic is red and white. Now, this year, when I was at Lalit's clinic in the month of April, I brought that question up with Lalit and asked, "Hey Lalit, I have a question for you. I mean, I've been coming to you for several years, but in the recent past, a few years back, I've started noting that everything in your clinic, beginning from your signboard to your furnishing, to your uniform, to the pens that you give up as gifts, to your notepads and the prescription pads, everything's red and white. Why is that so?" As an answer, Lalit, my friend, pointed towards the wall. And as I turned around towards the wall and looked around me, everywhere I saw something that had always been there. I'd seen them, I had read them, but I'd never connected them. On the walls, several walls in the clinic, all over the place, there were quotes with pictures of Richard Branson. Lalit Soda held Richard Branson as a role model for success. He feels truly inspired by the sutras that Richard Branson shares for success. We all have our role models. We all have those icons, those idols whom we adore. For Lalit, it was Richard Branson. And Richard Branson's brand Virgin, the Virgin Group, is red and white. Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Red. It's all red and white. If you see the Virgin logo, it's red and white. And if you want to Google, you could Google Lalit Soda Chiropractic Clinic. You will see the red board, you'll see the red attire, red and white. I'm not saying we would need to change to a color that our role models wear or the kind of clothes that they wear. Lalit, of course, took that up as well wonderfully. What I was really inspired by Lalit's example in the clinic was how he had surrounded himself with these quotes to inspire him with these success sutras. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we need to be in or create a positive surrounding, a positive atmosphere, a positive environment which will keep inspiring us with the commitment that we have made in our lives. Therefore, in your rooms, in your washrooms, bathrooms, restrooms, in your dining room, lunch tables, at your office, in your cars, have quotes. Have quotes. Inspirational quotes coming from your role models or inspirational quotes coming from so many different personalities. Those quotes which will inspire you, because it's that 1% inspiration that will be responsible for your 99% perspiration. Of course, we could physically print quotes with the pictures of those gentlemen or ladies who've said them and keep them around us. But there's another thing to do as well. We live in the modern day of technology. In fact, the other day when I was talking about, how we charge our phones before we charge ourselves, I read one of the comments one lady made later. She said, but you also got popular by using Facebook, isn't it? Because I was talking about how we can get so distracted by Facebook. Yeah, technology is no problem. Facebook is no problem. Smartphones are no problem. So long as we use them in moderation. So long as we use technology and we don't get used by technology. We don't get victimized by technology. Technology is great. And so long as we use the technology, whether it's social media, whether it's our smartphones, our laptops, guys, whatever it might be, when we use it for constructive purposes, for our own lives, for the lives of others, and for the world at large, in a way that we can make it a better place, then that technology is no harm actually. Yes, I also am very grateful to Facebook and all social media, because I'm able to communicate to all of you through this social media and through this technology. And in fact, I am known to all of you and all of you are known to me because of this medium. Let's use it constructively. Let's use it with the right moderation, and let's not become victims of it. If we do it that way, no problem at all. So I was mentioning that we are in an age of technology today. And since we are in an age of technology, we could use technology for inspiration as well, to create that positive surrounding of inspiration so that our perspiration is right. You could use reminder apps which can pop up on your screens, those quotes that you have put in there, or you could just send reminder apps that breathe now, or don't do this, or do this. Interesting, isn't it? We have all these facilities today. Why can't we use them? We could use the wallpaper of our phones, our tablets, our gadgets, our laptops as inspirational quotes. We can keep a folder of those inspirational videos, sharing those nuggets and snippets of motivation. And so many hundreds and thousands of them available now all over the place, all over the internet. Why not take those videos? Those videos, especially those ones which always resonate with our hearts, which strike a very deep chord, which touch us very deeply, and which really kind of motivate and inspires us to give our 200%. Keep them as your favorite folders. Put them in your favorite section. And every single time you feel a low, count upon this resource pool of motivational and inspirational videos. We can create that positive atmosphere. We can create that positive environment. We can create that positive surrounding. And if you already have that surrounding, you're fortunate that you're already in there. But if we have to, we must also create it. Last but not the least, there's many things we could share about creating that positive surrounding. But last but not the least, I truly feel that one of the essential things required for the positive surrounding, motivation and inspiration is not just quotes all around the place, not just technology which can pop on the screen, inspirational quotes, reminders, videos, but people. The day before yesterday we heard how we should keep away from vicious company and seek virtuous company. Truly, it's people, being with those positive people, being with those motivated, inspired individuals which can pump into us that adrenaline, and not just pump it in but sustain it, so that our perspiration, our hard work, our commitment, our efforts keep going. Such people who are positive, such people who are there to help us without any agenda, without any ulterior motives. They don't want anything from us, but out of their affection for us, out of their deep bonding with us, they are willing to actually help us. That motivational association is such a positive surrounding. And even for that association, we could physically be with those people if possible, they are around us. We could connect to them on telephones, through technology, through Skype, through Facebook calls, through WhatsApp calls, whatever medium. We can actually keep ourselves inspired. Association is less physical. It's more inspirational. If we can physically be with that person, fantastic. But if we cannot physically be with that person, we can always connect to that person through different means on a regular basis and keep that charge going. Look for that person. Who's that 1, 2, 3 people? Who's that one person or 2 or 3 people for you who really charge you up? Meet them if possible regularly. If not, keep a connect with them regularly, because that connect will keep you inspired. That connect will refurbish, re-embellish the foundation of that 1% inspiration. I shared this story in one of the videos recently on the lessons from the pencil, but I cannot help but share this once again because it's such an amazing story. I really like it. A little boy once came back from school. He came home and he met his mother and handed over a paper to his mother saying, "Mom, my teacher gave this little tiny letter to be handed over only to you for your reading." When the mother opened the letter and started reading the contents, she was crying. She was in tears. As she spoke to her, little boy said, "Your teacher's written that you are a genius." She said, "Your son is a genius. The school is too small for him, and we don't have enough good teachers to actually train your son. So it would be really nice if you train your son at home." Years later, the mother died, and the boy, who was now a grown-up, was cleaning up things in his mother's home. And as he opened the drawer of one of the desks in the home, inside the drawer he found that little paper which he had given to his mother years back. He opened the paper, and this gentleman cried for hours after that when he read what was written on the piece of paper. The teacher had written on the piece of paper, "Your son is mentally ill. We do not think he has any capacity to learn in this school. We do not think that he would ever do well in the school. So we are expelling, throwing him out of the school." This man cried bitterly out of gratitude to his mom for having trusted him. And this gentleman wrote at the bottom of this line, just below this line that the teacher had written on this old paper, this gentleman wrote below, "Yes, Thomas Alva Edison was a mentally ill boy and was turned into one of the greatest inventors of the century by his hero, his mother, who trusted in him, who inspired him, who believed in him." Yes, when we have those people who can pump in that inspiration, who can pump in that motivation, even if people give up on us, our temptations are strong, difficulties and challenges come. But in the company And with the inspiration of such amazing people, we can truly move on in the direction and destination that we want to go towards. So as a recap and a summary, we heard today that genius or success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Perspiration without inspiration is a nightmare, but inspiration without perspiration is a daydream. Let's not be daydreamers just being inspired, and let not turn our life into a nightmare by just acting without inspiration. The balance is a crucial aspect. And then we heard how to stay inspired. We stay away from those negative surroundings, but we stay inspired by positive surroundings. How do we do it? We use inspirational quotes, create that atmosphere around us in our homes, at our offices, putting those quotes so that they are reminders to us of what's the right thing to do. We use technology, our smartphones, our gadgets, and our laptops to watch inspirational videos, motivational videos every single day. We make a favorite folder of those ones which specially resonate with us, and every single time we are in our low phase, we count on them to inspire us. But thirdly, like Thomas Alva Edison's mother, we need someone who can trust in us, who can help us without any ulterior motive, who are there for us to motivate, inspire us, and pump into us that energy, that fuel, so that the vehicle of our hard work can go in the right direction. Yes, create that positive surrounding for yourselves, and you will be able to keep up with your habit commitments. Thank you for joining us once again, and a very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. A very quick recapitulation of what we discussed yesterday in our 8th day of the 21 Days Habit Challenge. We heard how perspiration without inspiration is a nightmare, but inspiration without perspiration is simply a daydream. And therefore, we need to have a balance between inspiration and perspiration. In fact, inspiration is the foundation of the perspiration, or all the hard work that we take up in order to change and transform ourselves. We also heard how to stay sustainably inspired. In order to stay sustainably inspired, we need to surround ourselves with a positive environment. We need to create a positive surrounding around us. And how do we do that? We can do that, we discussed yesterday, by inspiring quotes around us, by keeping our favorite folder on our smartphones, on our gadgets, on our laptops, filled with motivational videos that really touch our heart and resonate with us. We can also definitely look at creating that positive surrounding by connecting to people who trust in us, who believe in us, who uplift us, and who will motivate and inspire us to bring us to where we want to be in our lives. Our reflection for day 9 of the 21 Days Habit Challenge, which is today, is this. I've been living in our ashram, a monastery at ISKCON Chowpatty, Mumbai, for a couple of years now. We have a beautiful ashram with about 70 to 80 monks, brahmacharis, and we also have a wonderful community revolving around our temple and our ashram of at least over 2,500 to 3,000 families who are connected to us. Now, a couple of years back, I happened to observe that both in our ashram and in our community as well, there seemed to be a lot of problems, a lot of issues, difficulties, so many negative things happening around, so many negative things going on around. And at a certain point of time, I thought that I have to do something about it. My Guru, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, with a lot of hard work, effort and dedication, had created this wonderful ashram and community with the beautiful spiritual mood, with the beautiful spiritual atmosphere of love, of trust, of harmony, of cooperation. And I thought, I cannot allow these problems, these negativities to jeopardize and threaten this wonderful community that he has created. So one day I decided to go and have a word with him when I came to see him, he asked me what brought me to see him. And as soon as he said that, I started ranting and raving about all the negativities, the issues, the problems, the difficulties, the challenges. This is happening, that is happening, this is going wrong, that is going wrong. And for the next 45 minutes, all I was saying and talking about was these issues and problems. After about 45 minutes, he asked me if I was done and if he could say something. And when I said that I was done, he said to me, "Why are you getting so consumed by all the problems and the issues?" And for the next 45 minutes after that, he started talking about all the wonderful things that were happening in our ashram, all the wonderful things that were happening in our community. He started talking about this is happening and that is happening, and didn't you see this amazing project that's developing? Didn't you see that this amazing brahmachari, this monk who's doing such incredible preaching and teaching in our community? Didn't you see that this family just gave birth to a beautiful baby boy? Didn't you see that this family's son got married to such a nice girl and they're doing so well? He kept bringing my attention again and again for the next 45 minutes to all the positive things that were happening in our ashram and in our community, to all the wonderful things that were happening around us. And then, after helping my mind to get consumed by the positive energy of the beautiful gifts and blessings that we were showered with, he then brought my attention to all the problems that I was discussing earlier. Sifting out all the problems that were just perceptions, not reality, and bringing my attention to the real issues, to the real problems that I had mentioned. And then for the next whatever time, we discussed what could be the possible solutions for those problems. That day, as I left his room, he had taught me a very important lesson. The lesson was, the problem is not that we don't have problems. The problem is that we get consumed by those problems. It's not that we don't have bad habits. It's not that we don't have challenges. It's not that we don't have problems. The problem is that we get consumed by those. We shouldn't get consumed by the negative things. We should be dealing with the negative things. We should be consumed by the positive things, the wonderful things that are happening around us. We should be consumed by the positive energy by focusing on the gifts, the blessings that we have been showered with. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we need to get consumed by positive energy and deal with the negative energy of problems, challenges, difficulties, trying circumstances, and our negative habits as well. And thus, gratitude for all those wonderful things that are happening is such an incredible positive emotion, and the more we get consumed by that positive emotion of gratitude, to that extent we get empowered to deal with the negative that's happening in our lives. Therefore, one of the reflections that I want to offer to all of you this morning is, get consumed by the positive energy. Focus not on your bad habits. Get consumed not by the negative energy of your bad habits. Sometimes we just get so consumed by it that all that's playing on our mind is that. No, that's meant to be dealt with. Focus on the good things that are happening in your life. And to focus on the good things and be grateful doesn't happen automatically. It's not our default setting. Our default setting is to go towards the negative. Our default setting is to focus on the negative. We have to customize our lives. By being consciously aware, we have to become more mindful and conscious of the wonderful gifts, the wonderful opportunities, the wonderful blessings that we've been showered with. And with that positive energy, with that positive emotion of gratitude, feel tremendously empowered to deal with our bad habits, to deal with our challenges. And therefore, do not be hateful about what you're going through in life. Be grateful for all those wonderful gifts that you've been given in your life. All of us got up this morning. Many in the world did not get up. They left this world. They died last night. Probably with their bad habits, probably with their challenges, probably with their difficulties and troubled situations. All of us got up. We pray for those who left. We wish well for all those who left last night. We all got up. And we have to be grateful for that second chance that we have been given, for that second opportunity that we have been given to transform, to change, to live a better life, and to help others live a better life. And therefore, the reflection that I want to leave all of you with today is get consumed by gratitude, the positive emotion of gratitude. Don't be hateful about your life. Be grateful for all the wonderful things that are happening in your life. Focus on the positive and deal with the negative. Yes, we can, in our habit challenge, be very empowered and feel really strong to face all of them and improve if our mind is consumed by the positive energy and the positive emotion of gratitude. I wish to thank all of you very much for joining us today. See you all tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock Indian Standard Time. Until then, thank you. Good morning to all of you from the Govardhaniko village of Galtare, India. And I want to thank all of you for joining us once again on the 10th day of our 21 days habit challenge. I am really happy and delighted to be with all of you once again, to share a couple of thoughts, a few reflections with all of you so that we can work on our habits, try and chuck off the bad habits and cultivate good ones. A quick brief recapitulation of what we discussed in our session yesterday. We heard how we need to deal with the negative and be consumed by the positive. We shouldn't be consumed by the negative. We should be consumed by the positive and deal with the negatives. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, gratitude is that most powerful positive emotion. And if we get consumed by that positive emotion of gratitude, we certainly can deal with a lot of negative challenges, habits, difficulties and problems that can come our way. One time, there was a man who was engulfed with a lot of negativities, with a lot of bad habits, a lot of attachments. And he had heard that close by in a forest there lived a sage, and the sage would offer solutions to the problems and the issues that you were going through. With a lot of anticipation to improve, to work on himself and pull himself out of these negative habits and attachments, he made his way to the forest. There he saw a sage sitting under a tree. This man came and offered his pranams, his obeisances to the sage, and knelt down in front of the sage, and looking up towards the sage sitting on this platform under a tree, he asked the sage, "Sir, I've come all the way from the village close by. I'm completely overwhelmed by these negative attachments, completely carried away by my bad habits. There's not one wrong thing that I don't do. I'm practically into all these wrong things. But I know it's wrong for me. I know it's bad for me. I know it's detrimental to my progress, to my overall well-being. How do I actually come out of this negative attachments and this situation?" The sage said to the man, "Stand up." The man stood up. The sage said, "Now pick your right leg up into the air and hold it there." The man lifted his right leg and held it in the air. The sage said, "Now pick your left leg up into the air and hold it there." The man said, "Hey, wait a minute. My right leg is already up in the air. How can I pick my left leg up into the air? If I pick my left leg into the air, I'll fall down, won't I?" The sage said, "All right, no worries. I know you can't do it." The sage said, "Now can you see that branch of the tree above your head? I want you to now put your right hand above your head and hold that branch which is above your head." Now the branch was not very much into his reach, but not completely out of reach. So the man went on his toes, really kind of struggling, and held that branch with his right hand. The sage said, "Now I want you to pick your left hand up and hold that branch with your left hand." The branch was a little higher from the left hand side, and he kind of really was practically on his toes as he held the branch with his left hand. And now that he had held the branch with his right and his left hand with both of his hands, the sage said, "Now I want you to lift both of your legs in the air." Very easily, the man picked both of his legs in the air and was practically swinging back and forth, enjoying the swing, the effect of the swing that he was having in front of the sage. The sage looked at the guy and said to him, "When you're trying to deal with your negative habits, give them up and try to deal with your attachments and get yourself uprooted from these attachments. It's like trying to put both of your legs in the air without holding on to anything higher." Now when you put both of your legs in the air and pick yourself both the legs in the air, well, the only one thing that will happen is you fall down. So just like you cannot lift both of your legs in the air, unless of course you're a yogi who levitates, you can't lift both of your legs into the air. Similarly, you can't just give your negative habits and attachments by themselves. The sage went on to say, "But just as soon as you put both of your hands to a branch which was higher, a branch which was above you, you could now bring both of your legs in the air." Similarly, the sage said, when you try to connect to something which is higher than you, which is above yourself, that connection to something higher than you gives you such an incredible experience of joy and positivity. It is based on that experience of your connection to something higher than yourself that you can pick both your legs up, that you can actually pick yourself up from your habits, bad habits. You can pick yourself up from your negative attachments. The man was amazed at the answer. He said, "It sounds so good and seems so incredibly inspiring, sir, but there's a question. What is that higher thing? In picking both my legs up, I can just hold on to the branch and pick both of my legs off. But what is that higher thing that I can hold on to and pick myself up from these bad habits and negative attachments?" The sage said 3 things. Number 1, the thing that's higher than yourself is cultivation of good habits. Yes, you're not able to yet deal with your bad habits and not minimize those bad habits. Can you start cultivating some good habits and connect to something higher and get that experience, that positive experience, pleasure from something higher, and then be able to deal with these negative attachments and habits? It's just like if you get a stale chapati or a stale piece of bread which is 7 days old and that's all you have to have and eat, you'll hang on to it, you'll cling on to it. But if someone offers to you a fantastic, hot, fresh pizza, if that's what you like, or any other example of whatever you like, someone offers you something fresh, hot, piping hot and delicious, you can take that. Because the pleasure and the experience coming from something fresh, you would easily be able to do away with that stale piece of bread or chapati that you clinged on to only for one reason, because there's nothing else. One man came up to me and he said to me that his son is so hooked on to playing these video games on his smartphone. For 2 hours a day, he just spends his time playing these games on the phone. So I've been chastising him, I've been trying to take him out of it, but he just doesn't listen, he just doesn't come out. I said, don't ask him to come out of this 2 hours of playing these games. Rather, why don't you tell him you can play these 2 hours of your games if you also go for a swimming class for 30 minutes every day. If you send him for a swimming class, there's a good coach teaching him, where he starts having interpersonal relationships with others in the swimming pool, where the coach is really giving him the confidence. He himself is learning how to swim well, his self-confidence is boosted, his self-esteem is boosted, he feels incredibly inspired by coming in contact with water, by coming in contact with people. The experience of pleasure that he derives from this, eventually probably he may not even want to play that game. And even if he does want to, he'll do it in moderation. So why say no to this? Why not say yes to something amazing, something good, which will give you a positive experience of pleasure, of joy, of confidence, of self-esteem, and based on that, then you could come out of these negative attachments and bad habits. But the one thing to connect yourself to, the higher thing to connect yourself to, is cultivation of those positive good habits, whatever that might be for you. Whatever that might be for you. But that experience will certainly enhance your ability to deal with your negative habits and attachments. The second thing the sage said to the man is that higher thing that you could connect to is a sense of very strong purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of life is a life of purpose. If we are not driven by a very strong purpose in life, all these little things and these habits and these challenges and problems just overcome us like mad. But if we are strongly driven by a sense of purpose, we subdue all of these attachments and these negativities to that strong sense of purpose. Find your purpose. If you do not find your purpose, and if you do not get consumed by that purpose, if you do not feel motivated by that purpose, that higher branch above yourself, then both of your feet are going to be on the ground, like the pull of gravity. Your habits and your attachments will drag you down day by day. And therefore, we need to certainly look for that sense of purpose. And what is that sense of purpose? To serve, to bring a smile on somebody's face, to help, to share, to care, to love. Believe me, as we find that sense of purpose, and as we extend that helping hand to someone, to serve, to truly bring a change in someone's life, a positive change, you know what happens? We feel a great sense of inner fortitude to deal with our negative challenges, because we have held on to something higher, something much higher than ourselves, a purpose. That strong sense of connecting to something higher than ourselves will help us pick our feet up, pick ourselves up from those attachments and those bad habits. One gentleman once came to me and he said he had 2 young sons, and he would always take both of these sons on vacations to different parts of the world. He, his wife, and his 2 sons, his entire family would go for vacation, sometimes thrice a year, always stay in 5-star hotels, spend a huge amount of money on shopping for the entire family, whatever they wanted, always fly business class or first class, and gave everything possible to his 2 sons. One probably about 13, 14 years old, the other probably about 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And one day this man comes up to me and says that these kids are just not grateful. I thought I should give them an experience of what real life is. So I was trying to propose that we should probably go on economy class to fly to our vacation in Switzerland this year. And we should probably also stay in a budget hotel. But these kids just can't understand. They just don't have gratitude. I said to the man, yes, certainly there is some fault with the kids as well. There's a great fault with you as well. You have never said a no to them. They've only heard a yes as an answer. They never have heard no as an answer. They're practically pampered. And because they're pampered now, they're just demanding. They feel they're entitled. Another thing I told him is, look, have you ever taken them to an old age home? Have you ever taken them to the economically underprivileged? Have you ever taken them to an orphanage? Where they can also see other kids, other people who don't have what they have. They're going to a school which is surrounded by kids either of the same socio-economic status or higher, probably in an IB school. They're going to a party where they find people, kids their age, who are probably either same like them or higher than them. So they feel they're entitled, or they're always complaining and cribbing that they don't have enough. Why is he driving in this car? Why can't I drive in this car? or when they start looking at people who are lower than themselves. No one's lower than anybody, but from a socio-economic point of view, if somebody is apparently lower than themselves, them, they'll see what they have and be grateful for it. Not just that they'll be grateful for it, they'll also find their sense of purpose to serve, to give, to share, to bring a smile on that other person's face. Start taking them to these old age homes. I said start taking them to these orphanages, to these underprivileged, economically underprivileged. Start taking them to deal with nature. Start taking them to deal with cows, with animals, so that they feel a sense of compassion, they feel a sense of service. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, find your sense of purpose. What can you do for somebody, even if it's that one person? Find that sense of purpose, that branch, that higher branch, that's something above yourselves to connect to. And believe me, you will feel that you now get the strength to pick your legs up. Believe me, you will feel the strength to now pick yourself up from these habits and these negative attachments. The third thing the sage told this man is that higher thing to connect yourself to, above yourself, is your spiritual connection. The connection of your very self, the very core, your very soul, with divinity, with the Supreme Divine. As you connect, make that deep spiritual connect, that spiritual energy, that grace, that blessing that flows down to you, gives you the ability to pick yourself up from these habits and these negative attachments. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, in the year 1965, made his way to the United States of America, and at that time he found himself surrounded by what was then called the Flower Revolution. Young American boys and girls, all in their late teens, early 20s, late teens or early 20s, completely subjugated and consumed by their negative energy, by bad habits, substance abuse, compulsive alcoholism, all kinds of illegitimate connections, consumed by these. Srila Prabhupada recommended to them to connect themselves to a higher branch, the branch of their spiritual connection. Gave them sanctified food called prasadam, asked them to chant the holy names of God, asked them to do spiritual service to God and to the people of this world. And with that strong spiritual connect, way in 1965-66, many of these American boys and girls came out of their negative attachments and habits because they had clinged on and held on to something higher than themselves. And 40, 50 years down the line, these ladies and gentlemen are still very spiritual people. His disciples, his followers, his students, still completely connected, still away from all of those habits that they were then consumed by. And today, the 15th of December, as I mentioned earlier, all across India and PVR cinemas, there's going to be a documentary movie on His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada called Hare Krishna. I do recommend all of you to go and watch this movie if you can, to see the kind of change that comes when you cling on to something higher than yourself, a purpose, good habits, a spiritual connect. Yes, the sage told the man, if you do connect yourself to something higher than yourself, like that branch above you, you will certainly be able to pick your legs up. You'll certainly be able to come above all those bad habits, all those attachments, these negative attachments that are pulling you down like the force of gravity. In the language of the Bhagavad Gita, it is called Param Drishtva Nivartate. Experiencing that higher pleasure, experiencing that higher taste by our connection to something higher than ourselves and dealing with our negative attachments and bad habits. So yes, that higher thing is number one, good habits and the experience coming from there. Number two, it is a strong sense of purpose and the experience coming from there. And number three, it is a spiritual connect and the experience coming from there. That high experience will surely help us deal with our habits and our negative attachments. I thank you all very much for being with us. Yesterday we heard that if we want to give up our lower base habits and our negative attachments, we have to hang on to something that is higher than ourselves. That something higher is the cultivation of our positive habits, a very meaningful sense of purpose, and a very deep spiritual connection. All of these give us a sense of inner fulfillment, which thus empowers us to tackle and deal with our habits and attachments. Here's our reflection for today. I remember when I was a university student, one day I was at home preparing for exams. My mother had made amazing lunch. I left my studies to take lunch and ate to my heart's satisfaction, practically up to my neck, full up to my neck. And then I went back to my studies, trying to focus. The subject being interesting, I was trying to grasp the content that I was reading, only until my attention was diverted by a jar that was sitting on a shelf very close to where I was studying. The contents of the jar were very interesting. There were 4 cream rolls in there. I hope you know what a cream roll is. It is a puff pastry cone stuffed with whipped cream and jam. In the UK they call it a cream horn. In the USA a lady lock. In some parts of Europe like Austria they call it a sham roll. But like it is said, a rose by any name would smell as sweet, and a cream roll by any name would probably taste as sweet and as great. As I saw the cream rolls in that jar, my mind was yelling and crying to go and get one. Mind you, I was already full with lunch. I tried to justify that I just had lunch and I'm full. I need to focus on my studies and I can always eat it later. But the mind just created a ruckus. And finally I gave in. I went to the jar, picked up one of the cream rolls, had it, it was amazing, and came back to study. Guess what? I couldn't focus. My tongue in collaboration with the mind wanted a second. I tried not to get up, but ended up going to the jar, taking a second one, and then a third one, and a fourth one. And I finished all the 4 cream rolls in that jar that afternoon. And this is after a full lunch. I realized that the mind is exactly like a child. Haven't we seen a child who wants something, starts crying, starts creating a ruckus, starts creating a scene because it wants it? And I don't even think there's anything wrong giving the child what it wants if what he or she wants is harmless. The problem is not that we don't want to give it to the child. The problem is that if we give it to the child at the child's terms, the child becomes stubborn, obstinate, demanding, feels entitled, and gets pampered. So if it's a harmless thing, there's no problem giving it to the child. But we should give it to the child at our terms. If the child is focused, being obedient, studying properly, then we give it to the child as a reward if the thing is harmless. The mind is exactly like the child. Creates a ruckus, demands what it wants. And if we give it to the mind at its terms, the mind becomes stubborn, obstinate, pampered, cannot listen to a no for an answer, distracts us from what we are doing, and the nature of the mind then becomes to be, I want what I want, when I want, how I want, where I want, and it doesn't matter if I have to keep something else aside to get what I want. Now, this was the problem that happened that afternoon. A cream roll is after all a harmless thing. I didn't have any high sugar then, not obese, no health issues, so eating one cream roll is not a big deal after all. It wasn't the cream roll. It was giving in to the mind and making it stubborn, obstinate, and pampered. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not just about the harmless things, is it? Many times it's the harmful things as well. The mind cries and yells for those harmful things. And that's what we are talking about in our 21 days habit challenge, our bad habits, isn't it? The mind just wants to go towards those things and indulge in those things that are harmful, and the mind wants it right then, distracts us from what is important and makes us go and do what's harmful and self-destructive. Haven't we felt this in our lives, that we want to, say something immediately? We don't like somebody, or we don't like that something's happening, and we want to right away say it. The mind is saying, say it now. We feel anger and frustration in our heads, and the mind is yelling, you yell at the person right now. And it's destructive for ourselves and for our relationships, both. This is why a very important, crucial element is to not to pamper the child. Good parenting is about not pampering the child. Good parenting is not giving anything harmful to the child. Would you give anything harmful to your child? No. Then why are we giving anything harmful to our minds? And if it's something harmless, even that we give to the child at our terms, not at the child's term, making it obstinate and stubborn. Similarly, if we have to reward our mind with something that's harmless, a cream roll in my example, we would do it at our terms, not at the mind's term. We don't want to become slaves to our minds. We want to make the mind our slave and keep it under our control. How do we deal with it? I many times say we don't even have to say a no to our mind. We probably just need to say a wait to our mind. I'm not saying no, just do it later. I'm not saying no to a cream roll, it's harmless. Let's finish our studies and eat it later. What I'm doing in the course of doing this is I'm training my mind not to be pampered. I'm training my mind that things are not going to essentially go by your terms. Things are going to go by my terms. You can't enslave me. I'll try to enslave you and keep you, or shall I say not enslave, I'll try to keep you under my control. And therefore, I think we don't have to say a no to the mind. And if it's something harmful, again, don't say a no right away. Just learn to say a wait. Not to say that we'll give the mind what is harmful, but we'll postpone what is wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, in dealing with the mind, learn how to postpone what is wrong and prioritize what is right. Focus right now and prioritize on what is right. And postpone what is wrong. When it comes to doing right, I remember this very popular doha by Kabir ji. He said, Kal kare so aaj kare so abhi, pal mein parlay ho jayega, bahuri karega kabhi. What you have to do tomorrow, do it today. And what you have to do today, do it now, because we never know what will come out to be later. So when it comes to doing right, this is what we should follow. And when it comes to doing wrong, we should follow the other side of this doha. आज करे सो कल करे सो परसों, अभी इतनी जल्दी क्या है, जब पड़े है बरसों. If you want to do it today, do it tomorrow. And if you have to do it tomorrow, postpone it to the day after tomorrow. After all, we have a long life ahead. What's the hurry in doing that wrong thing? So when it comes to doing the right, prepone it, prioritize it, do it now. When it comes to do the wrong, postpone it to tomorrow, to day after tomorrow. Keep postponing the wrong to such an extent that the mind will be fed up and will say, I don't want to do this wrong any longer. And therefore the reflection that I want to leave all of you with today is try to prioritize the right and do it now, and try to postpone the wrong and keep saying a wait to your mind. Don't say a no, we'll do it. Just wait. Tomorrow, to such an extent that one day the mind will say, enough of this tomorrows, I don't want to do this any longer. Thank you all very much, and looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining us once again on the 12th day of the 21 Days Habit Challenge. I always say nowadays, man proposes and internet disposes. In our discussion yesterday, we heard how we have to learn to discipline the mind by postponing the wrong and prioritizing the right. when it comes to our bad habits and those mental noises, those mental cries to do the wrong, all we have to do is not even say a no straight away, just say a wait. Okay, I'll do it, but tomorrow. I'll do it, but tomorrow. And whenever it comes to doing the right, we have to say, let me do it now. And thus prioritize the right and postpone the wrong. Any of you who have thrown a pebble or a stone on the surface of a lake have certainly noted that that stone acts as a center point, as a pivot, and sends out ripples to the area all around it, to the area surrounding it. The reflection for today therefore is, we need to identify that good habit which will act as the center, as the key point, as the pivot, or as Charles Duhigg said, as the keystone habit. That one good habit which acts as the keystone or the pivotal habit, which will send ripples around to all the other habits that we are trying to deal with. To give you an example, if we decide to exercise or work out and make that as the central, the pivotal, the keystone habit for the year 2018, then that one habit will certainly send a ripple effect and will percolate down into many other habits that we are trying to deal with. If we decide to work out as a regular thing and that becomes our habit, you would see automatically we would have to look at our diet. What are we going to eat in terms of nutrition? How many times are we going to eat? When are we going to eat? All of these dietary aspects and habits related to our dietary aspects also slowly start getting controlled and tied up with that keystone, that central habit. Automatically we would have to look at our rest and our sleep. If we are working out hard, whatever that exercise or workout may be, but if we are doing it hard, we would need to have a certain amount of rest. So automatically the quality of our sleep, the duration of our sleep, the timing of our sleep habits will come under control by being connected to that central habit. We will start developing consistency and discipline, because if we are working out, let's say 5 days a week, and if we keep up with that month after month in the next year 2018, we're going to get into the attitude of consistency and discipline, which also came as a habit connected, a mental habit connected to that central, pivotal, key point habit of exercising regularly. Automatically our self-confidence, our self-esteem starts increasing, which also is a consequence of that pivotal keystone habit of exercising. So as soon as we make a good habit as the center or the keystone and identify how that will affect our other areas, we will see how many other negative things that we are dealing with can also start falling in place. To give you another example, if we make spirituality as a central habit, as a pivotal habit, as a keystone habit for our next year, we will see a lot of other areas also start getting affected. We'll automatically connect it to spirituality would mean, what do we read? We're not going to read any junk literature. We won't waste our time reading this or that. We'll now start choosing what should we read, what should we watch, what should we hear. Automatically, we will form a habit of reading, hearing, watching value-based things, those things that will add true value to our life and transform our lives. As soon as we make spirituality as the center of our life, as a central key habit for 2018, we will see that we will also start choosing those people who are like-minded, who value the same values, who prioritize the same priorities that we have, who are dealing with the same kind of issues that we are kind of dealing with. We look for that like-minded positive association, and automatically then wasting our time on gossip and discussing unnecessary things, if that's our bad habit, that will slowly go out as well, because this is going to be connected to our central key habit of being spiritual. We would probably start adopting spiritual practices of meditation, prayer, chanting, or whatever that might mean for you. And as soon as we adopt a spiritual practice, we will see that the best time for a spiritual practice, recommended time, is morning hours. And if it's morning hours, we would then decide that, okay, if I have to wake up a little earlier in the morning, then maybe I should also sleep a little earlier in the night. And now anyways, I'm doing value-based things, so I could try and rest early in the night. So which means if you're trying to deal with waking up early in the morning, if that habit is now connected to your key, the keystone, the central habit, you will see that even that starts falling in place. And if we practice the spiritual meditation, chanting, prayer, whatever that might mean for you, we will see that there's a certain calm, a certain peace, a certain inner stability that comes to us. And once we feel that, we're also kind of getting slowly healed from within. And the more we get healed from within, we'll see that our dealings with others also starts improving. Automatically we start becoming a little more sensitive towards others. We become a little more tolerant with others. Many have asked in these sessions and comments and questions how to deal with anger, how to deal with this mental bad habits. We'll see that as we feel healed emotionally and spiritually within, it will reflect outside in terms of how we deal with others with sensitivity and dignity. And therefore, I feel that there is a great need for all of us to identify those central, pivotal, keystone habits, as Charles Duhigg called them, the keystone habits. So the reflection for today is, identify, if you could, those keystone, those pivotal, those central habits, which will send out a ripple effect to other areas of your life because they're connected to this one habit, and start affecting the other areas positively as well. I wish to thank you all very much for taking out your time to watch this video. I'm very happy to be with all of you once again, live now, and I want to offer my sincere thanks to all of you for your ongoing kindness, love, enthusiasm, and support in the work that we are trying to do by helping people in this world bring in positivity in their lives, change themselves, transform themselves based on the spiritual wisdom. Believe me, I would just love to greet each and every one of you personally, reply to your comments, reply to the messages that you send to me. It's just that the sheer volume is so large that it becomes beyond me as an individual to get back to you on a one-on-one note. But rest assured, I feel that I'm always with you in terms of my prayers, my best wishes, and whatever support I can offer to you to help you transform and change your life in a positive way based on these lovely teachings of spirituality. In our reflection yesterday, we heard how we need to identify that central, that pivotal, that key habit and develop that key central pivotal good habit, which then will send a ripple effect, which then will percolate down to the other negative habits that are connected to this one habit and help us improve and deal with those negative habits and bad habits. Now, a couple of weeks back, or shall I say a couple of days back, we heard how we should be surrounded by positive people who actually inspire us, motivate us, encourage us, support us. But what if we are surrounded by the opposite? When we are trying to change, when we are trying to deal with our bad habits, when we are trying to come out of those challenges that we have taken upon ourselves, if we are surrounded by those people who are negative, discouraging, they don't want us to improve, they're trying to pull us down, how do we deal with people around us who are negative? They could be at your workplace, they could be in your family, they could be your friend circle, your colleagues. How do we deal with that kind of negative people who are trying to pull us down from the good that we're trying to do, from how we're trying to improve ourselves? There's an ancient tale from China. A girl called Li got married, and after her marriage she went to live with her husband and her in-laws. Now things were going fine, but it was very hard for her to deal with her mother-in-law. The mother-in-law seemed to be like very ruthless, she seemed to be very argumentative, very demanding, she demanded respect, she demanded obedience, she demanded constant service. And Lee was getting into an argument with her mother-in-law practically on a daily basis. And this was affecting the entire atmosphere of the home. This was affecting the husband, who was kind of sandwiched between the mother and the wife. And this was affecting the mind of Lee so badly. She realized that this is getting too much for me now. And one day, out of utter frustration, she decided to end the life, not hers, of her mother-in-law. She went to her father's friend, Mr. Huang, who was an expert in treating people with medical herbs. She went to Mr. Huang, whom she treated as her own uncle and was very close to, and opened her heart up, confided in him, and told him all that she was going through at her in-law's place because of her mother-in-law. And finally she said, I've come here to seek help. I want you to give me a herb which is poisonous, which when mixed with her food will kill her and finish her. Mr. Huang sympathized with Lee, went into his storehouse and brought a bag full of herbs and said to Lee, these herbs are extremely poisonous. Now the problem, Lee, is this. If I give you a herb which acts instantaneously, which you mix with your mother-in-law's food, she eats it and she dies immediately today, people will be suspicious that you killed her. Therefore, here are the herbs which are slow acting. Every day mix these herbs with her food, and these herbs will start having their poisonous effect in her system. And in about 6 months' time, she'll be finished and dead. But I have a word of caution. In order that your husband, others in the family, and in the neighborhood and society do not be suspicious of you, the first thing you need to do as you mix this poison on a daily basis in her food is you change your dealings with her. You start treating her as your own mother. You start respecting her, being obedient to her, and try and treat her as a queen practically. Cook delicious food for her every day. Serve her with great kindness and love, and in that delicious food, mix these poisonous herbs. Surely, after 6 months, these herbs will work and she will be gone. Lee came, and every single day she started mixing these herbs portion by portion in the delicious food that she made for her mother-in-law. She started treating her mother-in-law with great affection, with great love, not because she loved her, but because she was trying to cover up the plot that she had hatched to kill her. She treated her with love, affection, with great respect. She obeyed her. She practically pampered her like her own mother. And then after a while, she saw that her mother-in-law had transformed as well. She started dealing with Lee as if she was her own daughter. She started telling everybody in the family, everybody in her friend circle and her social circle, that actually Lee is not her daughter-in-law. She's like her own daughter. That transformation changed the entire atmosphere in the house. Both the mother-in-law and Lee started loving each other. The husband felt quite satisfied that everything had changed, but Lee was feeling deeply guilty. It's now coming close to 6 months, and these herbs must have had such a bad poisonous effect on the mother-in-law that someone who's so good will now be gone. One day Lee just rushed to Mr. Huang and started pouring out and crying tears, saying, actually my mother-in-law is not bad. She's an amazing person. I misunderstood her, and look at what I've done to her. I don't know what to do. Do you have a herb which will actually counter the poisonous effects that the earlier herb had on her? Mr. Huang said, the poison was never in the herbs, Lee. The poison was in your mind, and that poison has been cleansed now. And as a matter of fact, those herbs which I said were poisonous were actually vitamins, herbal vitamins, which would only enhance the health of your mother-in-law. Now, this is the first principle. I often say, most often, if not always, we are responsible to solicit the response that we get from people. If we treat people well, we will solicit a positive response from them. If we treat people with insensitivity, we will solicit a negative response from them. We are responsible for how people behave with us. And therefore, invest in people by being kind, by being sensitive, by being loving. And they'll offer you all the support that you want for you to change. They'll offer you all the support and encouragement for you to deal with your bad habits. Now, sounds good, isn't it? Very ideal. In real life, however, we should do it as much as is possible. We should just do it and bring out the best out of people by treating them well. But what if people around us don't change? Despite our being good, despite our being kind, despite our being loving, despite our being sensitive, what if people still don't change? What if people still remain negative? What if people still try to pull us down from our resolve to transform? What if people still discourage us from our resolve to change our bad habits? What do we do then? Well, the answer is we need to remain firm in our resolve to transform our bad habits. You know why? Because the people who are discouraging us are not going to have to bear the consequences of what we are doing. We are the ones who are going to face the consequences and bear the consequences of the wrong choices that we make. We are the ones who are going to face the brunt, bear the brunt of all the negative habits that we have in our lives. For example, if somebody is into compulsive alcoholism, and this is primarily because of being in the company of friends who are also compulsive alcoholics, and these guys are constantly encouraging each other to drink a lot of alcohol, mind you, if you have that bad habit, you are the one who's going to have to bear the brunt. You are the one who's going to have to suffer the liver issues that you may go through later, and none of these friends will be by your side. They may come and at best sympathize, but nothing more than that. They won't have to bear the consequences that they'll have to bear their own. Your family will have to bear the consequences of what you go through. And therefore, remember, if people discourage you, if they're negative, if they pull you down, and therefore just to be with them and just socially just kind of carry on and cruise along with whatever you're doing, remember that you are the one who's going to suffer. Your family is the one who's going to suffer. And many times it won't even be family. Many times the family may discourage you from doing what's right. Like somebody was telling me the other day that, I want to sleep early and wake up early in the morning. But my family members sleep late in the night. And if I go and rest early, they feel I'm antisocial. They feel that I've become something else. That they feel that I've become a saint or something. And they discourage me. Remember, sometimes they may be family members. But again, they don't have to bear the consequences of what you have to go through. The popular story I always talk about is the man called Ratnakar in the forest, looting travelers in the forest, stealing from them, killing them to get their valuables, and trying to support his family, his children, and feeling that he's very responsible and doing good for his family. And one day the great sage Narad Muni happened to walk by and said to Ratnakar, "Why are you doing all of these things?" Ratnakar said, "Well, I don't care any less for me. I don't need these valuables. I don't need this money. I don't need any of these benefits that come to me by doing this for myself. I'm actually simply doing it for my wife and my kids." Narad Muni the sage said to Ratnakar, "I'll wait here for you. Go to your family and ask them if they would bear the consequences of your choices, if they would bear the karmic reactions for your activities of stealing, looting, killing, murdering." Ratnakar went to his family, asked his wife, "I'm doing all of this for you. Would you bear the consequences?" She said, "I can sympathize with you, but I'm not going to be bearing the karma for you." He asked his kids. Kids said, "Father, it's your responsibility to care for us, and most other fathers are doing it rightly. You could have done it rightly, you're doing it this way. It's your problem." Ratnakar realized the consequences of my choices, the consequences from my action have to be borne by me, not my family, not my friends, not my colleagues, not my parents, not my siblings. Nobody is going to bear the consequences for what you do. And if they love you, they'll be by your side. If they love you, they'll try and support you as much as they can if it comes to health, financially. But the pain, the mental pain, the physical pain, the agony has to be suffered by us personally. Don't they say? Every pilot has to every pilot has to fly his or her own plane. So be firm. Even if people around are discouraging, when your friends are discouraging you, because most often misery loves company, When you're wanting to change and they are not changing, they're thinking that this guy is improving, he's going away. Don't feel discouraged. Be firm. Because the consequences will have to be borne by you. Now, very often, firmness is misunderstood as bluntness. Firmness is misunderstood as grossness, straightness and insensitivity. We can be very firm in what we are doing, and you don't have to be blunt and insensitive at the same time. How do we do that? Here's what I often advise. First, be firm, but be polite and sensitive. You don't have to be firm and blunt. Very often, what happens when we make a resolve to change and we actually try changing and we're trying to do the right thing, we become extremely condescending towards people around us. It could be our family members, our friends, or whoever. We become extremely condescending, even in our words at times. We get that holier than thou kind of a feeling, that attitude, where we think now we are better and the others are not. And we even say it sometimes. Now what happens when we say it is the people around us just start feeling guilty about it, that they're not doing what the right thing is, and they just discourage us from doing what is right. So we don't have to make others feel condescending. We should be very sensitive and polite. Be firm, but be extremely sensitive and polite to their feelings. You can do the right. At the moment, you don't have to preach to them. You don't have to tell them that they should do things which are right. Don't be preachy. Be empathetic and even be sympathetic, towards what they're doing. Now, sometimes it's not even that we say it, but our body language is very condescending because the attitude is very condescending. Ladies and gentlemen, we can be firm in our practices, but we can also be very grateful, sensitive and conscious in our attitude, in our body language and our dealings. In fact, if we are polite and sensitive, we may even inspire the people around us to consider transformation and change in the wrong that they are doing and in the wrong that we are working upon to get to do what is right. So be firm, yet sensitive and polite. The second thing, be firm, yet very swift and subtle. I've seen many times some of my friends, they may not necessarily agree to what's happening around them, and they don't even make the other person feel that they're uncomfortable. They don't even make the other person feel that they're kind of not very happy with it. Very subtly, very swiftly, they'll sneak out of that situation, not even making the other person feel that they've gone. One has to learn that out. Be very swift, very subtle, very gentle. If you know that you have to do something and the people around you are very discouraging and are not very supportive, deal with it in a very swift, gentle, subtle way that the people in front of you don't even come to know that you've sneaked out of that company. Therefore, be firm, but be subtle and swift in how you pull yourself out, very gently out of that company. And the third thing I say is, be firm, but be sportive and bubbly. Don't put up that face, that I'm better, you're not better, and that I'm angry, I'm frustrated that you're not supporting me. Be sportive. People say, make a negative comment. People say something, be sportive, lively, bubbly. People will eventually start liking who you are, and they wouldn't mind what you do in terms of working on your bad habits and improving. There was a man who was walking on the road once. He had these reddish kind of hair, this red kind of hair, dyed hair. So this one guy started making fun of this guy, mocking him, saying, "Sir, is that red hair from your mother's side or your father's side?" The guy didn't get upset or frustrated and angry. he said, well, it's neither from my mother's side nor from my father's side. It's actually from peroxide. And giving a sportive smile and laughter. Sometimes you have to laugh it out. Be sportive. Be firm though. Don't give up your resolve to change. Don't give up your determination to improve on your bad habits, because people around you are negative and are discouraging. What should we do? Be firm but sensitive and polite. Be firm but subtle and swift. Be firm but sportive and bubbly. And people will change. And if they don't change and they're just going to be perennially negative, just don't worry. You do what is right, because they are not going to have to bear the consequences of what you do. But do it in a nice, gentle way, the best possible way, causing the least emotional hurt to everyone around us. So the reflection for today is this. Number one is, most times we are responsible for the response that comes from people. The story of Lee. Let's try and be kind, invest in people, in those relationships, and bring the best emotion out of them, bring the best out of them in a way that they'll support us in what we want to do in our journey of transformation and change. And second, if we find people are not so supportive and we can't bring that response out of them by our good behavior, they're negative and discouraging, be firm, because we are going to have to suffer the consequences. But how do we remain firm? Be firm, but one, sensitive and polite. Be firm, but two, subtle and swift. Be firm, three, sportive and bubbly. And if we deal with it that way, our journey of transformation and change will be a happy, fulfilling and positive one. I want to thank you all once again for joining us this morning on it. A quick recapitulation of what we discussed yesterday. We heard that if we are not surrounded by those positive people who can inspire us, motivate us and encourage us, and we are surrounded by those people who don't really kind of give us that kind of support, the first principle we follow is we try to deal with them in a way that we can solicit that support from them. We invest in that relationship by our kind dealings, sensitive dealings, so that those people kind of give us that support and encouragement. But that's too ideal oftentimes. What if people don't change, and what if people are negative around us, and what if people don't really support us and inspire us and they remain who they are? And the second principle we heard yesterday was that we should remain firm in our resolve. Why? Because we have to bear the consequences of the choices that we make and the acts that we engage in. Nobody's going to suffer for us. We have to suffer it ourselves. And the third principle we heard is, firmness doesn't mean bluntness. We should be firm in our resolve, but sensitive and polite. We should be firm in our resolve, but swift and subtle in how we deal with people. We should be firm in our resolve and quite sportive in how we deal with people around us. And if still people don't change and they don't give us the support, we have to continue being firm, because at the end of the day, we have to live our lives. Now, some of you have commented and asked me this question, that all this sounds easier than done. It's easy to say these things, easy to listen to these things, but when it comes to practical implementation, application, and dealing with these things in real life, it seems very difficult. It seems very hard. But that's very true. What you've said is perfectly true. Because only the wrong things come very easy. The right things that we need to do in our life don't come that easily. You know, when we do the wrong things, they give us that momentary pleasure, and they're extremely easy to do. Although they give us that momentary pleasure and they're easy to do, in the long run, however, we have to pay a very high price in terms of our physical, emotional, mental and spiritual well-being. Although they give us pleasure and they're easy, God, they really cause a lot of trouble later. On the other hand, the right things, they cause pain in the beginning. They're painful to do. A lot of hard work. They don't come easy. And if we just are willing to bear that initial pain, that initial hard work, that initial discomfort, and that initial could be a long time actually, in the long run, these right things, these right habits pay back a massive premium to us in terms of sustained pleasure, safe pleasure, which has a very high shelf value, and it is not at all destructive to our overall sense of well-being. This kind of pleasure coming from the right things, Lord Krishna calls these pleasures in the Bhagavad Gita as sattvic pleasures, or pleasures in the mode of goodness. They cause pain in the beginning, discomfort in the beginning, but they pay back a huge premium in terms of sustained high shelf pleasures. On the other hand, Lord Krishna calls this short-term pleasures that come by doing wrong as pleasures in the mode of ignorance, or tamasic pleasures. These pleasures are momentarily very exciting, thrilling, exhilarating, and they're easy to go. But in the long run, we have to pay a huge price. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, do not worry so much about what is easy or hard. Worry about what is right and wrong. The right things may be hard, but we should be doing it in our long-term interest. The wrong things may come easy, but we should be avoiding them in our long-term interest. Therefore, even if being polite, sensitive, swift, sportive, kind to others may be hard, even if putting all these things that we've spoken in the last couple of days into practice sounds very hard and difficult, but that's the right thing to do. Ladies and gentlemen, in our transformative journey, we have to worry about the right thing to do, not the easy thing to do. And right things require a lot of hard work, but bit by bit, as we work hard, we can get there. In the Niti Shastras, there's a very nice Sanskrit verse, which I really like, gives a good analogy. It says, Nahi suptasya simhasya pravishanti mukhe mrigaha udyame nahi siddhyanti karyani nahi manorathai. Simhasya means a lion. Suptasya simhasya means a lion who's laying down. The lion thinks that he is the king of the forest, is the king of the jungle, and therefore he lays down mukhe, opening his mouth wide, thinking pravishanti mrigaha, that a deer will enter into his mouth without doing anything. So a lion is laying down in the forest thinking he's the king of the jungle, and that a deer will walk into his mouth if he keeps his mouth wide open. Nahi praveshante mrigaha, but the deer is not going to walk into the mouth of the lion. At most, what the deer will do is come and probably put its leg up and pass water in the mouth of the lion and run away on its swift toes. Now, the next two lines are beautiful. They say, Udyame nahi siddhyanti karyani. The dream that we want to fulfill in our life will only come by karyani. Siddhyanti karyani. We can achieve what we want to achieve by hard work, being industrious, being hardworking, putting our 200% effort. Karyani. Nahi manorathai. Not simply by wishful dreams and wishful thinking. Just like the lion sitting there wishful thinking that the deer will enter into its mouth. Deer is not going to come. The lion has to put all the hard work. Karyani. Then can it catch the deer. So also, simply by wishful thinking, we're not going to get where we want to get. This wishful thinking in Sanskrit is called manorathai. Now if you carefully observe the word manorath in Sanskrit or Hindi, it's interesting. Rath means a chariot and man means the mind. So manorath means the chariot of the mind on which our wishes and our desires ride. Our wishes and our desires ride the chariot of the mind, manorath, and simply keep us taking in different directions internally and accomplish nothing. If we want our manorath, our desire, our wishes to come true, we have to work hard. If we want to transform, give up our bad habits, cultivate positive habits, and change our life positively, wishful thinking, manorath, will do no good. Although wishful thinking is easy, it gives a lot of pleasure when you just dream and daydream, it's going to get us nowhere. But if we do the required efforts, karyani, hard work, not so pleasurable, painful, it's sattvic, because that's what will pay back in the long run. So, don't worry so much about what's easy and what's hard. Worry about what's right and what's wrong. If it's right, but painful. Prioritize it, do it, bit by bit, we'll get there. If it's easy, but it's wrong, it's not going to get us anywhere, simply by that manorath. Ladies and gentlemen, we are already into 2 weeks of our 21 days habit challenge. Today is the 14th day of our 21 days habit challenge, and I really want to congratulate all of you who have been there for all the 2 weeks live with us. 12 days, at least 2 days we weren't live, but 12 days you've been live. And for all of those who haven't been live for all of our 12 days but have been watching our videos, for those who have not been watching, have just logged in and watching few of them, my heartiest congratulations to all of you for joining us, and my sincere gratitude for forming this wonderful community. And we will carry this energy on into the new year 2018 by not just making a 21 days habit challenge, but by making it a 2018 habit challenge, and making sure that we carry this positive energy into the new year and continue it on into the fresh new year with complete zeal and vigor. Now there's another phrase in Sanskrit that draws my attention a lot, again in relation to the lion. That phrase is called Simhavalokan, broken down into 2 words, Simha, Avalokan. Simha means a lion and Avalokan means a glance. Literally, that phrase Simhavalokan means a lion's glance. Now, as the lion is prancing forward towards its target, rushing and moving towards its target, every now and then the lion will look back, give a glance backwards. The lion is moving ahead with great confidence to catch that target. But as it moves with confidence to catch that target, it will constantly, every now and then rather, keep looking back, glancing back. Why? Because the lion wants to see how far has it come, how far has he to go to reach its target. The lion wants to see, in the process of going forward, has he missed any tiny preys, any tiny targets behind? If he has missed, he'll go back, catch them, and then move forward to catch the larger target. So Simhavalokan, that phrase in its implied sense, means reflection, means introspection, means taking a review, means taking an inventory of how we are doing. In the last 2 weeks, we have to say, how have we moved on? How have we done? How far have we come? How far do we have to go? Have we missed some of those things in the back which we need to attend to so that we can move forward in the right way? That is called Simhavalokan, the art of introspection and reflection. Yes, once again, it's 14 days, 2 weeks. Time to make that reflection, time to take that inventory. If you were those guys riding the bike and successfully riding still, make a new micro installment. If you're waking up at 8 o'clock and have done well till 7:45, go to 7:30, 7:15, 15. If you've been working on your habits of not getting angry in the last 2 weeks, even if you've been in control twice, make one more new micro installment. Whatever your habit is, if you're doing well, compliments to you, and keep going. If you're not doing all that well, if you failed, no problem. Revive your micro installments. Get back onto the bike. Compliments to you for even trying hard. Keep going. If you were those who got distracted, no problem. Reinforce your commitment by coming to the track. No issues. If you've not made a commitment, start a commitment. But keep going. Keep the hard work going. Do not lose one thing in life. Hope. If there's anything that should never be lost in life, is hope. Don't be hopeless. Even if you fail, don't be hopeless. There was a little boy who walked into a room where 4 candles were lit. As the boy walked in, the first candle spoke and said, I am hard work, effort. But I've been working so hard and I can't see anything happening. Been working for so hard. There's no change, no transformation. And the candle, which represented hard work, went off. The second candle spoke to the boy and said, I am patience. I've been waiting and waiting to see something happen. Nothing has happened. And the candle representing patience went off. The third candle spoke up. I am determination. I've been trying to hold on and keeping that grit, to keep going. How long I'll keep going? How long do I muster that courage? How long do I just keep biting my lower lip and keep going when I can't see any tangible result out of what I'm doing? And the candle representing determination went off. The little boy started crying, saying, all three of you were meant to be lit. If three of you are not lit, how is transformation, how is change going to come in our habit journey? The fourth candle spoke up to the boy and said, my dear boy, I'm hope, the candle that represents hope. So long as I am lit up, all these other three can be lit up as well. So pick me up, my dear boy, and light up these other three candles which have gone off. The boy picked up the candle of hope and once again lit up the candle of hard work, patience, and determination. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, don't be hopeless. Hope is that flame that rekindles the fire, the flame of hard work, patience, and determination, and lights up the journey of our habit transformation. And therefore, even if we fail, even if we haven't done all that well, it doesn't matter. We have to keep going. The one thing not to lose in this 21 days habit challenge, in the new year 2018 to come, and in all the years of our life, is hope. Where there is hope, there's patience. Where there is hope, there's hard work. Where there's hope, there's determination. Where there's hope, there's faith. And wherever there is hope, transformation will certainly come if we redirect that hope into working hard with patience and determination. And therefore, just a quick review of our 2 weeks. I want to congratulate you on wherever you have reached, and I want to encourage you to continue going despite all your failures and disappointments with great hope, determination, and patience. I want to thank all of you once again for joining us on the 14th day of our 21 days habit challenge, and I wish all of you a great day ahead if you're in India, and I wish all of you a great whatever, in whichever part of the world you are, a great evening, a good day, a good morning, a good night, whatever it might be for all of you from different parts of the world.